Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume. The Sparkfile podcast may contain profanity and other adult content. Please use your discretion.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Spark File, your one-stop shop for creative inspiration.
I'm Laura Camion.
And I'm Susan Blackwell, and we are makers who make all kinds of things.
That's right. And if you're like us and you're making stuff all the time, you know that sometimes the fish pond of inspiration can get a little tapped out.
So we're on the lookout for fresh ideas, images, and inspiration that spark our creativity and pique our curiosity, things that inspire us to get off our asses and make things like this podcast.
Or a birthday cake.
Or a really tricked out terrarium.
Yes, girl, that's so true. So every episode, we're going to reach into the Spark File and exchange some sparks. And then we're going to talk to some folks who spark us too.
And if you're not careful, you might just get your fish pond restocked. So without further ado, let's open up the Spark File.
The Spark File.
Oh,
I don't know why I did that.
An alternative jingle. I'll take it. Will you tell the people? I'd never heard of the term a Spark File or the Spark File until I heard it from you. I heard it from you. I got it from you. I learned it from you, Dad. So tell the people what that means to you.
I first heard the phrase a few years ago, and up until that point, I was like most people, I kept random ideas kind of everywhere in files called random ideas. And that wasn't very inspiring. This concept randos in this file and 10 other files.
Yeah.
So the Spark File is just that. It's the idea place. It's where you put all those little gems.
So when something, you read something or something pops into your mind and you're like, oh, that would be a great line or a great character.
Yes. Or you hear people talking on the subway and you're like, are you kidding
You throw it into
me?
your Spark
They just
File.
said that. I need that line in my life. Yeah. And you put it in there.
So so I similarly had across different, it's a little bit in my phone, a little bit in like 10 million abandoned journals, just these little sparks of internal and external inspiration. And I started collecting them now in something that I call my own Spark File.
The Spark File.
So we are literally on this podcast each week. Weekly? Are we making that commitment?
We're doing it. It's weekly. Just tune in weekly.
Doing things means doing things. We are going to open up our Spark Files and we're going to share some sparks that inspire us. Right. And, hopefully they'll inspire you too.
In some cases, these sparks are brand spanking new, sparks that went in this week. In some cases, we may discover old sparks.
Ye olde sparks.
What the hell was I thinking when I put that in there?
Yes.
And, dig it up and let it see the light of day.
That's right.
We should also say that we believe Can I speak for both of us?
I'm nervous.
It
Go
depends
ahead.
on what you say. That ideas are free flowing and they're everywhere if you're looking for them. And we're not, we don't treat them like they're so precious that we won't ever get another one of them. So
That's right.
we are
There's an
sharing
abundance.
them. And we know that what you make with the Spark is going to be different than what we make from it if we ever.
We know you're going to make an
something from it.
amazing contemporary dance piece, while I'm going to be making a graphic novel, and Camian's going to be making a tone poem.
That's right. First, she will learn what that is. But yeah, we're going to share these ideas. They're free for the taking and the making. So please, if you feel inspired, go for it.
Should we start?
Yes, do it.
God. I am crazy excited to share the Spark with you.
I can't wait.
It gives me chills. This is the Spark that literally lives in my phone, my Spark file in my phone app.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. She has been described as courageous, brave. There was nothing being made in the whole world like what she was making. Hilma af Klint painted for the future. The future is now.
What?
I know. You're like, I don't know what those sentences mean. I would like to just acknowledge that this spark came to me from my little homeboy, Zachary Quinto.
Oh,
thank you, Zachary
Zach.
Quinto. This, he was like, do you know about Hilma af Klint? And I was like, I don't know what that sentence means. So I want to thank him. I pulled my info for this from 4 main sources. A New York Times article called Hilma Who? No More by Roberta Smith. A 2013 New York Times article by Natalia Rocklin. The website of the Guggenheim Museum, including a video that they beautifully produced. The Hilma af Klint Foundation website. I guess there's 5. And an article written by Jennifer Higgy on the website Freeze. And even with all of that, I'm not an art historian, so I'm probably going to fuck up some of these details, but the sparks remain, baby. So Hilma af Klint. Hilma, Hilma, lowercase af, Klint, Klint. Hilma af Klint, a woman, an artist born in Stockholm, Sweden, about 5'1" of fun. So she's a little peanut. Just picture her. Hilma af Klint Paintings for the Future is the first major solo exhibition in the United States devoted to her, the Guggenheim Museum in New York. And if you don't know the Guggenheim, it's that museum on Fifth Avenue, east of Central Park. It's big, it's white. It looks like the most stylish, beautiful spiral parking garage you've ever seen. Does that ring a bell?
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, yeah. Listen, I'm a little museum phobic, so
Are you really?
I
didn't know
am.
that
It
about
gives
you.
me like a tired feeling.
Immediately upon entering?
No, not immediately. It's so funny. Zach was actually saying when he was like, have you seen the show? And I was like, museums make me feel tired. And he said, here's what you got to do. You have to get either the recorded audio tour, or if you're lucky enough, like a docent, he's like, if you just go in and just try to ingest all that and read all those little placards and stuff,
You won't get it all.
go in with some help and you will have a more pleasurable experience. And I think he's right. So I want to read to you from the New York Times review of this show, this exhibition. This is written by Roberta Smith. If you like to hallucinate but disdain the requisite stimulants, spend some time in the Guggenheim Guggenheim. That's what I call it. I don't know what you call it. That's what the kids are calling it. In the Guggenheim Museum's staggering exhibition, Hilma af Klint Paintings for the Future. The museum's high gallery, the name has added resonance in this context, displays the show's rapturous overture, a series of 10 paintings by Klint. Collectively titled The 10 Largest, they may induce disorientation, not the least for the way they blow open art history. And Cams, I just want to show you.
Okay.
Check out this work.
Wow.
Tell me what you're seeing for the listener at home. Just give me a little
The
description.
first thing I thought was like Orange Crush. It's got a very poppy kind of feel to
Yep.
it. At least that one
Yeah.
there. Vibrant colors.
Big colors.
Orange, big colors. Flowers.
Here's another one.
Little, psychedelic. You could totally go there in an altered state.
Yeah.
Wow.
But big
when
colors.
Did she?
Don't you get ahead of me.
Sorry. We'll find out when.
The scale of the motifs and the painting's sheer size, 10 feet by nearly 9 feet, invite you to step in and float away to the music of the spheres.
Whoa.
That
Sorry.
was a crash.
That was me.
Oh,
Yep.
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay. P.S. It's pretty baller to imagine this 5'1" peanut doing these huge paintings.
They're twice her size.
Mm-hmm. Back to Roberta. The 10 largest, that's what that series of 10 paintings is called, seem utterly contemporary, made yesterday fresh, but prepare for label shock. They were created in 1907.
Stop it.
Yep.
Nothing like that. I've never seen anything like that.
I know.
From the early 1900s?
That's right. So let's back it up.
Holy shit, they must have thought she was cray.
Let's back it up.
Okay.
Let's unpack it. So Hilma af Klint was born in 1862 into a prominent Swedish family. Her father was a naval officer. Her grandfather was a nautical cartographer. Fancy.
You got some big words there too.
She was one of the earliest women to train at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Stockholm, graduating with honors in 1887 at the age of 25. While she was there, she painted what you would think a lady of the time would paint: botanical studies, landscapes, like pretty lady portraits and self-portraits. But her interest in spiritualism and the science of the day sparked new ideas for Hilma af Klint. Around the age of 17, perhaps in part because of the death of her sister, she began to conduct seances with a group of like-minded ladies. They called themselves the Friday Group, also known as the Five, which is fucking badass.
Whoa.
The Friday Group or the Five would both be great band names.
Yes.
The Five would be a great band name for a rock duo. The Five seem to be interested in a mix of spiritualism, science, Christianity, and the work of Rudolf Steiner, who was a proponent of a philosophy called anthroposophy.
What?
It was founded by this in the 19th century, and it postulates the existence of an objective, intellectually comprehensible spiritual world accessible to human experience. You know, Wikipedia wrote that sentence because you know I sure as fuck didn't. Okay.
I'm still digesting it.
I think it means an objective, intellectually comprehensible spiritual world accessible to human experience, so that the spirit world is actually something that is real and accessible to us as humans. So at their Friday seances, the Five would start with prayers. They would study the New Testament. It was such a tossed salad. Prayers, studied the New Testament, meditated, and then had spiritual seances. On a Friday night. Some five ladies on a Friday night. Seriously.
Shit.
These ladies were getting down. They did automatic writings and mediumistic drawings. During trance-like states, the Five eventually made contact with spiritual beings whom they called the High Ones or the High Masters. And I think in the original Swedish, it's De Höga. Again, I am just handing out great band names for you people. Free band names. Get your free band names
right here.
They even named the High Masters. High Master roll call. Here we go. Amalil, Ananda, Clemens, Esther, George, and Gregor, which are also choice baby names, y'all. I'm dealing out free baby names here.
Just like conjured something by naming all of them.
Oh, God damn. Can you imagine? The Huga
Different podcast.
Gosh, the Huga come down the chimney. By 1904, the High Masters began calling for so the spirit guides, right?
Yes.
In 1904, the spirit guides began calling for a temple filled with paintings to be created. The High Masters wanted this work to be an artistic message for humankind. When the four other ladies of the Five declined the commission, so the four other ladies were like, nope, nope,
I'm out.
Peace. They declined the commission, and at the age of 43, Hilma accepted it. And in November 1906, she began work on the paintings for the temple.
Just to be clear, the commission was from the spirits.
That's right.
Were they compensating her in some way?
Well, here's the thing. I had to go back. When I first heard, I was like, a commission, doesn't that usually involve so we'll put 50% down.
Right.
when we see the first round of paintings, we'll give you the next 25. And,
That's right.
But I think I think what they mean is there was like a spiritual mandate.
They asked for it. And she said, I'm game.
She said, I'm your girl.
Okay.
Which I love.
Wow.
The commission, which she painted in secret between 1906 and 1915, that's 9 years, right? Would change the course of her life. It became her life's work. She claimed that she merely served as a medium for this body of work and that spiritual forces had guided her hand during the execution. The contact with spiritual guides who both inspired her and communicated with her were for Hilma as real as the impressions given by the 5 physical senses. So that goes back to that Rudy Steiner, whatever I just called that. I can't remember, but that it was as real as this table. For her, it was that real. By visualizing inner processes and experiences, and by describing these as concretely and precisely as possible, she proceeded to develop a very personal expression. She really believed that this work had essential meaning regarding how the world is put together. So it's almost like, it reminds me like if you did an exercise where you're like, I'm going to shut my eyes. I'm going to see what I see behind my eyelids. Like, what do I visualize? And then being like, and now I'm going to get it down on canvas. But for her, it was this influence of the spirit world.
But what's crazy, and people, when they look up her artwork, it looks like the 1960s.
Word.
It's the 60s.
I'm feeling 60s even into 70s.
Yes. So how the hell?
How the hell?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so fascinated. She later said, the pictures were painted directly through me without any preliminary drawings and with great force. I had no idea what the paintings were supposed to depict. Nevertheless, I worked swiftly and surely without changing a single brushstroke.
Now, could that also be called like a muse when people say something worked through me? I don't even remember thinking
like
those
I
words.
wrote that song in 5 minutes and it was just like I woke up and it was fully formed.
I put that down on paper and I don't remember writing it.
Yeah, it seems like she was, just when I hear that, there was no, like she didn't do any sketches or studies in advance. She was just sort of like, now think of it. I think she, if I understand correctly, she was putting the canvas or the paper on the floor and working on the floor. But it sounds like she would just, whatever that thing was, it was like moving through her, and she, with great force, without changing a single stroke, was just like going for it.
Wow.
But I mean, I feel like in my lifetime, I've maybe had one of those moments where I was just like, it came to me fully formed.
Yeah.
She's had, her body of work is nutty.
It's all about that. Like she was able, once she went there, she was able to tap back in. Like, how do I get back to that state?
Yeah.
Wow.
As the commission progressed and the artwork developed from the organic and nature-inspired to the more geometric, Hilma explained that she increased control and influence over what she painted, serving more as an interpreter than as a medium. A mystical, idiosyncratic geometry emerged. You know, I sure as fuck didn't write that sentence. That's somebody from the Guggenheim wrote that sentence. But it is a perfect sentence to describe her work. And now, remember the big swirlies of the paintings of the largest 10. So then we're moving into this. What? And we're moving into, can you use your human language to describe what you're seeing, Laura?
Oh, gosh. Oh, my human language. Well, it looks like a pyramid with a graphic, gorgeous sun at the top.
But doesn't it, a mystical, idiosyncratic geometry emerged?
Holy
doesn't
crap.
it?
And it's so much more orderly than the last.
That's
the last was like the 60s, psychedelic, and this is much cleaner lines. And oh my God, that's a gorgeous, that's like a really colorful, like it's like a bullseye, but with different colors.
In shades of like rainbow and black and white.
Wow.
You look at some of her work now, and it really looks like it could be the cover of a Pink Floyd album.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly what that looks like.
But you have to remember when it was being made in the early 1900s. Also, Pink Floyd is a great band name. Someone should definitely use that. So a little bit about the secret codes. There's all sorts of code in Hilma's work. Blue represented female, yellow represented male, green was the unity of male and female. And in her journal, she carefully charted all of these images and her corresponding philosophies, this extensive library of ideas that she created. So for instance, there will be botanical studies in there, and then next to them, there's these little diagrams and infographics depicting the energy of the plant. It is, when you look at those journals, her notebooks, it is like she's creating a new language and interpreting all of this sort of energy and organic. It's fascinating, and it's pristine. It's just beautifully done. So the 10 largest, that group of paintings that I first showed you is known as the 10 largest, which is also a great name for a band. Apparently, they're supposed to, each of the paintings is meant to represent the lifespan of humans from birth to old age. And I think you kind of need the Hilma of Klint Dakota ring journals to know that. But these paintings were made in the early 1900s. And again, they look like they're painted in the 60s. And I want one so badly.
Amazing.
They are so beautiful. When completed, the collection Paintings for the Temple, which had been commissioned by the spirits, the Huaga, encompassed 193 paintings subdivided into several series and subgroups. It was one of the very first pieces of abstract art in the Western world, as it predates by several years the first non-figurative compositions of her contemporaries in Europe. What does that sentence mean? Let's unpack it.
Yes, please say it again.
So I want to talk you through this, because this is like, there's so many pieces of this that rock my world. At the turn of the 20th century, the world was on the brink of a dramatic change. Political, scientific, and cultural evolution was occurring, and art was changing too. Painters like Mondrian and Kandinsky began to replace perceived reality, like that's a tree, that's what we all agree on, that's how you paint a tree, with signs, and natural color with symbolic color. If you think of those Mondrian, those big blocks of color, like primary colors.
I was going to say primary.
They started turning from representation to abstraction, and a new expressive form known as abstract art emerged. So the year 1907 apparently is important to remember for modern art lovers and historians. 1907 is considered like maybe the year it all began, when Picasso started moving towards Cubism with these splintered forms. And I don't speak French, but Le Demoiselle d'Avignon, the damsel, that's a familiar painting, right?
Yes.
So it's that painting of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sexy nude ladies
Abstract
that's starting to get
forms,
into like a more, it's moving towards Cubism. That's 1907. But remember, our homegirl Hilma began creating radically abstract paintings in 1906.
And she never would have seen that
No,
anyway.
girl, she was in another part of the
Stockholm.
world. So this is years before Kandinsky and Mondrian and others would take similar strides and experience breakthroughs in their own work. Roberta Smith, again, in the New York Times, says, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say, isn't it amazing? In a time where information doesn't travel that quickly, ideas aren't shared that quickly, certainly visual representations of things can't be shared that quickly, how it is that change was happening all around the world.
There's a phrase for that. There's a phrase where, like in science, where I have to look up what it is, where more than one person will make a discovery, but on different parts of the planet, but right around the same time. It's sort of like that discovery manifests.
Well, it makes way more sense now, because you might read about something,
an exchange of information,
and it, split second, someone posts something and visually you can see what's happening elsewhere. But in 1907, that was not the case.
Right.
That's amazing.
I know. So back to Roberta Smith. Roberta Smith, if you're listening, I'm sure you're not. You're a great writer for the New York Times, and I'm sure in other places. She says, the idea that a woman got there first and with such style is beyond thrilling. Yes, I know art is not a competition, but still, off Klint's work seems so radical, so unlike anything else going on at the time. Her paintings definitively explode the notion of modernist abstraction as a male project.
Wow.
Get it, Roberta Smith? Get it, Hilma af
Yes.
Klint?
Yes.
I love it.
Did people appreciate her in her?
Girl, we're going to get there.
Oh my God.
We're going to get there.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yes.
Blackwell.
So she's nothing like this is being made in the world at the time that she's making it. Nothing. And I just said her work predates Mondrian, Kandinsky, Paul Klee, who have long been considered the pioneers of abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
There's no evidence, to your point, there's no evidence that she was involved in an abstract movement of her male contemporary colleagues, that she participated in the development of early modernism in Central or Western Europe. Nevertheless, she invented a similar non-representational aesthetic. Af Klint, working apart from those artists, doesn't fit into the story of the progression of abstract art.
Oh my
I
God.
think she doesn't easily fit into like the accepted art history.
Can I just make a note here? So it has obviously been studied and looked into to find out whether or not she was influenced by these men.
And I think the jury says no.
Jury says no.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, has anyone looked into whether or not these men were influenced by her?
It's an interesting question.
Just curious.
I'm not an art historian, but I think I may have an answer.
Oh.
So Laura Cambion is the first person that introduced me to this idea that how did you used to say that? The gene that makes you a great artist is not the same gene that makes you confident about picking up the phone or sending the email of self-promotion.
Yeah. Different
Those are different skills. Business acumen, different skill, self-promotion, the desire to be a maker, the desire to be a creator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kandinsky was actively campaigning for himself as being the first abstract artist, constantly writing his gallery and saying, hey, I was the first. I painted the first abstract painting in 1911. This came from an art historian named Julia Voss. He was obviously successful, as he's widely considered the father of 20th century abstraction, but all the while, Af Klint, much more privately, had already been creating these striking abstract visuals for years.
Right? And who will tell your story? He was obsessed, obviously, with someone telling his story.
Yes.
And sometimes the squeaky wheel, the one who's pushing for that.
For legacy.
Just like, okay,
but
dude.
I'm interested in the motivation, her motivation.
Yeah.
Which was, I felt like it was largely coming from what was very real to her, which was these high masters, these spiritual guides moving through her and sending a message to the world through her.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm not an art historian. I don't know what was moving these men, but clearly in addition to whatever was moving them creatively, some of them also had the acumen to say,
that's right.
Remember, I'm the first.
Write this down.
Write my name in the history book.
Acknowledge this.
Yeah. In a career spanning 6 decades, Hilma produced hundreds of paintings and thousands of pages of writing, notes, and drawings, while many of her better-known contemporaries published manifestos and exhibited widely. Hilma kept her groundbreaking paintings largely private.
Wow. Does it say why?
Yes, girl, you know it does.
God.
Before we get there, Maurice Tuchman, he's a famous curator. I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Sorry, Maurice. But you are a visionary. Mm-hmm. He was a curator. I don't know if he still is at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, contemporary curator. He explained that there's several reasons why her work might sometimes be left out. To a large degree, modern art history is made by the marketplace. Af Klint hasn't been out there to be seen and traded. She hasn't been purchased by important collectors and, more importantly, major museums. He said of her work, which is exclusively owned by her foundation.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not out being sold. It's not out being even viewed pieces in museums around the world, but there's reasons for that. So this actually reminds me of a side spark, and we'll get to her reasoning, but it actually, it's a spark I put in my file for another episode. It reminds me of the work of the outsider artist Henry Darger. Darger. I never know how to pronounce his name. Do you know him? Oh
no.
my God. So he was that hospital custodian in Chicago who he looked borderline homeless, but he had a job and he worked in a hospital and he was a quiet man. And when he died, they found a treasure trove of fantasy art that he had created during the course of his life. Does this ring any bells for you? The Vivian Girls?
No.
It's another spark for another day, but it's amazing. But unlike Henry, Hilma stipulated that her work not be shown for 20 years after her death.
What?
Yep. She had a vision that her work would contribute to influence not only the consciousness of people in general, but in its extension, also society itself. However, she was convinced that her contemporaries were not ready to perceive her work. She had received strict orders from the high ones, her spiritual leaders, not to show the paintings to anyone. She never aimed at exhibiting her esoteric and abstract works during her lifetime. The works of art belonged to the future and would only then be understood by the public.
Oh, shit.
This gives me chills. It's kind of like
kind
of like she knew that it was going to blow minds. And P.S., look at that work and think about it being created at the turn of the like at the 1900s.
No possible way you would place it in that time
I think they'd be like Burn the Witch.
Way.
They'd be like Burn the Witch. But it's kind of like she put a message in a bottle and cast it into the sea of time, and it bobs along for decades, and then it gets opened up, and then it gets read and appreciated.
When was it allowed? So 20 years after her death was when?
So the first large format show to include Hilma's abstract work actually wasn't, it came 42 years after her death. In 1986, that Maurice Tushman, I'm so sorry, sir, included from some of her work in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art show. And so it was not till 1986. 86.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm so there. I have so many, it brings up so many sparks for me about like, why are you making what you make? Who is it for? And I think for some of us, and I'll include myself in that, some of it's pay attention to me. Hey, look at me. Like some of it's about, I want my self-expression and wanting my voice to be heard. And I feel like she just had this bigger vision that spanned, it wasn't immediate. It was sort of like, I have this message from the spirit world and you're not ready for it. So I'm just going to work quietly in secret, and it can be shared. I don't know. I think it's fascinating.
It is, especially because so often now we really put the value on how many people saw something, how many people bought a ticket to it, purchased it.
How many Instagram followers.
How many Instagram followers. Yeah. And we don't put the value on the art itself, like just being in existence, just having been made.
I will say this. I will say, I get the impression from her, just a little bit, again, I'm not an art historian, but I get the impression that her family was affluent and...
Well, yeah. I mean, you kind of have to assume that
I think if you're going to work in secret and never sell your work be able to live and eat and have coal for the fire, you have to have some support, financial support.
100%.
So for some of us, your work, there's a financial imperative that your work is seen. But I think for a lot of us, there's a bigger piece around ego, that there is a financial imperative, but there's really a
legacy thing.
Hey, look at me.
What am I leaving behind?
Yeah.
What am I accomplishing? In my life.
So spirals were a big recurring motif in her paintings, and you could see that in the 10 largest, some of those spirals. But it wasn't just on the page or the canvas. It extended to her vision for the work's future exhibition. She made sketches for a circular building to house her paintings, where viewers would take in the work as they ascended a spiral staircase towards the heavens.
Way.
Girl.
No.
And in the catalog for the Guggenheim exhibition, they point out that Hilma conceived of this structure, the spiral structure, around 1930, just as Hilla Rebay, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, just as Hilla Rebay, the female abstract painter who was a founder of the Guggenheim, began imagining its architectural spiral.
Okay, now where was she from? Is there any possibility
that those
there was
two
a connection
were
there?
Just sitting, watching a game of croquet, and
sharing
we're like,
sparks and ideas?
I don't
Be like,
think so.
Hey, I see a circular
I don't think so.
museum.
I think that Hilma's vision for that came from the spirit world. I think it was a case of whatever that thing is that we were just describing, where on different corners of the planet, because the planet is a big square, on different sides of the planet, there. That's one of the sparks I'd like to. I'm an Earth flattist. What do they call those people? Flat earthers. I do think that those thoughts were happening separately.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were. I was just like playing in my mind.
Isn't that? I know we want to make it connected, but I want to make it disconnected.
It's so specific. It's so incredible that both of these women around the same time were imagining a building that is truly unique.
There's a beautiful short little video on the Guggenheim website about the Hilma af Klint exhibit. It's a really great, it's been a source for a lot of the stuff that I'm sharing with you now. Mm-hmm. But the way that it's brief, but the way that they depict it visually about her envisioning this ascending spiral where her work is exhibited, leading up to the heavens, and the way they use the images of the Guggenheim in that is worth a watch. It gave me chills. Cool. So in 1944, as war again raged in Europe, Mondrian and Kandinsky, two icons of abstract art, died with their legacy secured. That very same year, 1944, another artist passed, one whose work was yet unknown to the public, a female artist who worked to make the invisible visible. When Hilma passed in the autumn of 1944, she left behind around 1,300 non-figurative paintings that had never been shown to outsiders, and more than 125 notebooks and sketchbooks. In her will, Hilma specified that her life's work should be kept secret for at least 20 years after her death. Her last wish was also that the collection should never be split up.
Whoa.
So I will not have a Hilma in my house.
Not.
Well, actually, there's a chance, but we'll get to that in a second. How about that?
What? And she said that the spirits told her that it couldn't be seen, that people aren't ready for it yet.
Yeah. I know that they said, don't show it until 20 years after your death. I don't know if it was her wish that the collection should never be split up, but that prohibits people owning a piece of this art.
That's right. You can't.
Yeah. Which again, I think is so baller, because there's something about making something that isn't for commerce. Mm-hmm. Eventually it will be for, consumption and appreciation and, even receiving a spiritual message from the Huga. But it's not about, I don't know. It's
almost incomprehensible in our day and age where everything is commerce. Yeah. Everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So the collection of abstract paintings and notebooks is today owned and managed by the Hilma af Klint Foundation in Stockholm, Sweden. And on their website, it says, Hilma af Klint painted for the future. That future is now.
Oh, and so true.
And that is my spark.
Wow.
I think it's worth mentioning that her life and work have also sparked an opera. So it's interesting how creativity can beget creativity and can live in different forms. So it's called Hilma, an opera about hidden art. And it's a 2-person, it looks like a parlor opera that was produced fairly recently. And I think, if I'm reading it correctly, it's a man and a woman play the two performers. One plays Hilma and one plays Rudolf Steiner, I think. They both both opera singers have the last name af Klint. I think they're both relatives of hers. But I don't know a ton about that.
Okay.
Okay. But I also found, just when I was searching and, I found a dress for sale right now on the World Wide Webs with fabric inspired by her work.
What?
So-
okay, how can that be? Someone is
It's inspired by it. So it's that sort of in the largest 10, those paintings that I showed you.
Yeah.
Those, it's sort of that color of that
someone's
dusty
made
purple.
that fabric and then
It doesn't
made
look
a
like that
dress
though. It's
of it?
inspired by it. Like they
Okay.
took that spark and
Yeah.
it's like that color purple with like, it's not even flowers, but it's like little, a little graphic detail. It doesn't look like you're wrapped up in one of those paintings, but I thought it was interesting that people were taking sparks and then anything you do, let it come from you, then it will be new. They were like letting it move through them.
This is how I see it. How I interpret it.
I also found, the painting that I showed you that looked like the cover of the Pink Floyd album with like the rainbow pyramid and the big sun, geometric sun behind it. I found that as a poster on overstock.com. So apparently you can get a little piece of.
No, hang on. That can't be right though. They can't. I'm sure they.
You don't think they licensed that? You don't think the foundation has licensed that?
So how does that not break the rule of splitting up the paintings?
I don't know. And if you do split up the paintings, is it like that episode of the Brady Bunch where they took a piece of like volcanic lava off the island and you get the curse put on you?
Well,
that the high ones curse you?
I would be shocked if that was a real print, like a
print licensed print.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was on Overstock. I feel like they would shut that down though, wouldn't they?
I don't know. But
you can follow
dubious.
You can follow Hilma on Twitter at Hilma off Klint.
Okay, who's tweeting?
That's
her?
the foundation.
I know that I know.
Maybe it's the spirits.
But still, so I'm so curious.
Maybe it's Azrael or whatever the fuck the name of that spirit was.
I'm just as curious about this foundation because
Azrael was the name of the cat on the Smurfs, not the name of one of the high ones. Sorry, respect
though.
high ones.
Close. I'm curious about this foundation though, because if at some point have they found a way or determined that commercializing it to a degree is important. It's important that people see it. It's important. I mean, a Twitter or an Instagram page. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just curious.
I also was curious because it sounded like in her that first time her work was shown in the 80s, like in 86 in Los Angeles, it didn't sound like it was the full collection. It sounded like some of her pieces were part of a larger show. And I thought, you're going to get the Hilma curse for splitting up the collection.
No can do. That's not.
No can doozies.
I'm so curious. I want to know more.
But I'm not. That's what I got for you because
I want to know what people thought of her in her lifetime. I want to know, like those other 4 women. Did they say, "This has gotten a little too weird. We're stepping off"?
I don't know. Away. I would think that the other 4 women would be down to clown. I would think like the world outside those walls that were like, oh.
I just wonder, or if they're like, we never see her. She's locked away painting weird things that she won't show us.
Can you imagine, like, because she spent clearly, this was her life's work. So you have to figure her days were quite full with this work.
Yeah.
And then when people came over, were they like the locked doors and were like, we don't go into those rooms?
That's right. And I wonder it because to me, it doesn't matter what people think, but what it conjures up for me is this idea of like the fortitude and the strength that it takes for a person to go against the grain in that way and to say, despite whatever you think, whatever my family thinks,
you make a beautiful point.
To do this.
Yes, I have to do this.
And I wonder how many people she shared with the fact that she got the direction from the spirits.
Yeah. I don't know outside of the Friday Club. I don't know.
And also this was a time when people didn't take kindly to witchcraft.
Well, it wasn't like Salem, but it wasn't
Salem, but people were like, that's still a scary and weird thing. And, it wasn't, in social circles.
I think there was that spiritualist movement, though. I think that there was some of that. Again, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but.
That's not going to keep us from talking, though. Just so you know. We're
experts on nothing.
need those details.
But that's that. Oh, and let me just
Wow.
show you a picture of what she
Wow.
looked like, just in case you're wondering.
Okay, we're gonna need to post all this stuff too, so people
That's what she
can-
looked like. That's her
Wow,
sitting
she
there.
looks badass.
I think that she was.
Is there a movie in the works? Is there plays,
who would
movies?
play her?
I mean, like her story needs to be told.
I'm going to give you just
ways.
don't shut it down yet.
Okay.
But if we're going to go with an American actress,
Okay.
I'm going to give you Jennifer Lawrence.
Ooh.
Maybe
I see Chloe
Sevigny.
I know.
No, you're probably right. Chloe Sevigny, we've got an idea for you.
Yeah, that's right.
There's
That's
an idea for you. That's good, and
Wow.
I think she would be kind of the right person to do that.
People take it and make it.
That
That's
is the
amazing.
wild story of Hilma off Klint.
Wow, Susan, that's a really good spark.
Thanks,
it
man.
Sparks many side sparks.
I felt
Sparked that
totally
right there.
sparked by it.
Wow.
Should we take a little break? I think this is where we would insert a commercial for one of our sponsors.
That's right.
Who would be your dream sponsor? We don't have any sponsors yet.
Oh, my dream sponsor. Geez.
My dream sponsor. I'd be Chihuahua dogs, little dogs,
Little dogs would actually get together to buy an ad.
little dogs.
For little dogs.
Yes, buy little dogs for little dogs. Where you buy little dogs. All right.
Woo. Here we are.
What you got for me, Sparky?
Ready as we'll ever be. The name of my spark this week is Beware the Diderot Effect.
Beware the Diderot effect.
Yeah, that's just the title. I made that. Just to make it
You're like, it
sound
has
a little-
nothing to do with the spark that's about to hit you in the face.
But that's the name of it.
Well, I like it.
No, this is essentially, have you ever had that sort of feeling of like, if I could just accomplish like one more thing, this one thing, and then life's going to be easy for me from then on out.
Can I jump in right in at the
jump
top?
right
My
in.
meditation teacher, the great Emily Fletcher.
Yeah.
Do you mean like, is that like I'll be happy when syndrome?
A little bit, yeah.
If I could just have X number of dollars in the bank,
Then you
then I could be
have
happy.
that.
Or if I could just get out of 8th grade, if I can just get to high school, then I'll be happy kind of thing?
It's more like something that you accomplish. If I get this done, if I clean the house, then it's
I
great.
feel that every single day.
Every day. I have a feeling you may feel some things when I talk about this spark, Susan. Feelings. I want you to have them all.
Okay. I'm going to have them all over you.
So the thing,
And you, the listener at home. This is Susan
Ew.
Blackwell telling you to fuck off.
yeah.
I don't
so
really
the
mean that. I'm
thing
just
is-
joking.
No.
So sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Spark it up.
So the thing is that if you have this this feeling that, this one thing, I need to change this one thing and then I'm going to be good. But then of course you accomplish that thing or you change that thing or whatever it is. And then there's one more and then there's one more and there's
Yes.
one more, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a name for this.
I live in this zone.
It's about to get real for you, even realer. There's a name for this, the Diderot effect, and I might be pronouncing this man's name wrong. It's French.
Diderot.
Dennis
Diderot.
Yeah, but
We're
I'm
just going to say Diderot. Yeah.
So if I'm getting it wrong, I'm going to boldly repeat it and
Several
be
times.
consistent about it. That's what I'm going to do.
Strong and wrong. Strong and wrong, baby.
Strongly wrong. Okay. So Dennis was a French philosopher. He was an art critic. He was a writer. And he lived in the time of Voltaire, the Enlightenment,
When is that?
1700s.
1700s.
Yep.
P.S. This is where we start to learn how bad I am at history, dates, geography.
Thank goodness we have a podcast.
Strap in,
because
folks.
That's
Oh,
right.
Jesus.
We're going to learn some things. So Diderot was very well read. One of the things that he did was found like the encyclopedia, basically with others. But But when he decided to be a writer in the first place, his father disowned him. So he became like a bohemian and he lived always without very much money. Okay. So later, a little bit later in his life, he needed money for his daughter's dowry, and it pretty much wiped him out of any, that was it. He was bone dry. And he decided he needed to sell his prized possession, which was his library, because he's an intellectual. I was like, himself.
Magic beans?
No, it was his library. So because he was a smarty pants and had collected and written and, he had all these great books in his library. So Catherine the Great over in Russia hears of this, and she offers him a ton of money to keep that library for her. And she gives him the greatest deal known to man. She's like, I'll give you 1,000 a year. You maintain it until you die. I'll even give you 50 years advance. So it's like a shit ton. Like,
Wait. And where do the books live?
With him.
Oh.
So he gets to keep his library until he dies, and then she takes it.
Oh.
But he gets infused with like 50 years of
tons
money.
Of cash.
That's right. Now he's loving it. Yeah. So he very regretfully, one of the things he did was buy himself a new scarlet robe.
This story's got it all.
Okay.
I have no idea where you're going. His
new scarlet robe. And this robe was so beautiful, so luxurious, that he suddenly felt, compared to the rest of his life, everything else looked dingy.
Oh,
and
I
needed to be redone.
Girl,
take it away, Susan.
I know that feeling.
Right?
I'm going to tell you a story.
Do it.
A couple Christmases ago, my sweet baby Nathan gave me a watch. It's the nicest thing I own. It's by far the nicest thing I own.
That's right.
And I was like, I need to pimp up. I don't have clothes that are as nice as this. Like, I was like, I need to live. I need to. That's right. My lifestyle needs to rise up to be as nice as this watch.
But this is exactly.
That was my lush Diderot scarlet robe. I really mean
was
that.
Your scarlet robe, 100%.
It does something to your brain.
When I remember those chandeliers that I put in, Wes and I put in our bedroom.
Yeah.
They're glorious.
Were you like, that bedspread's got to go?
Now I'm like, babe, everything else needs to level up. These chandeliers are so gorgeous.
Yes.
So I totally get this feeling. Basically, what Diderot did was spend every fucking dime redoing his entire life to go with the scarlet robe.
I have a theory.
Yes.
Do you want my theory?
Yeah.
I think that there is a chemical rush that we get when we get our scarlet robe. And I think we're chasing that rush of the scarlet robe.
We're chasing the rush. I think
you can't win.
You
could win the lottery. That's the curse of the lottery.
I was just going to say it's lottery winners, right? And so a lot of times
those are my
Diderot
favorite. I love the curse of the lottery shows.
It's so tragic.
Because I know, but we're all like, not me. I'd do it differently. Would we? Would we?
No, probably not. That's what the Diderot effect usually is referring to. Our inability to like stop consuming things that we don't need.
This is
you're like, you're going for the jugular.
Oh my God. You're actually putting language to, you're organizing something in my mind that has just been like a free floating, what do they call it? Compulsion.
That's right. There is
Of course there is.
For it.
Of course there is.
There are people who have studied it.
Okay, keep going.
And a lot of times they talk about it, like one of the reasons it's so strong is because it does relate to our identity. So like when you got the new watch from Nathan, you could look at that watch and see yourself as the kind of person who wears a watch like this nice.
P.S. And as a girl who grew up in like a dirty, kind of a poor, I love my family. I love my life.
I know you do.
But I'm like, I never thought I'd be a girl with a watch like
with
that.
a watch like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So that's essentially his scarlet robe. And he was like, he literally said prior to the purchase, his sense of self was as the writer, the man who works. This is how he saw himself his entire life. And suddenly there was a disconnect when he put that robe on. Now he was like, I suddenly have the air of a rich good for nothing. But rather than get rid of the robe, he changed his entire life.
He
to
reordered
suit the
his whole
robe.
life. This makes me
That's
want
right.
to cry for some reason. I don't know why it
It's
does
our
give me
first
feelings.
podcast, and we're gonna work it out.
There's something about this that is, it's like a O. Henry
Yeah,
story or something.
There's tragedy.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the things I think we'll find as we go episode to episode, like I love to take, you know, a psychology term or a scientific term and kind of
Really make it my own.
its definition, you know, because it doesn't really have to be proven to be anything. But I'm not alone in this because I did, you know, I dug around and researched this a bit, and there are other people who are like, this effect can apply to other things. So beyond just the purchasing of stuff, which it's most frequently referred to in relation to that, but it can also refer to like ideas and plans and our human nature at large. So, for example, I might have an idea for rewriting a script, one of my scripts. I'm like, yes, I need to, like, you know what? I need to tweak that character's arc, whatever. That then leads to me thinking about actually all of my scripts need a little bit of reworking. But, you know, before I rework those, I might need to organize all of them. I should put all of those notes into an enormous list of things that I need to do. And I should organize all of those things into a new organization system. And
clean my office.
And
Yeah.
holy shit. Each one of those things, it's just like on and on. Like it won't be done or it won't be satisfying until I do all of that, which is ridiculous and overwhelming. Or like I just mentioned to you the other day, when you take a vacation and you have time off and you're like, you can't just say that you need to do the one thing I need to do while on vacation is this. It snowballs
These bloated
into
expectations about
50
all the things you're going to
things.
accomplish.
That's right. And then
you
all
just
end up
struggle with the disappointment that you let yourself down.
That's right.
Yeah.
With regret of it.
And then
how I spend my time
fail
off.
your vacation.
Exactly. Big ol' F on
so
that
fucked.
one. So, you know, it's basically like a little bit of a warning. So my spark applies to, it's like the success and the self-worth that we attach to these things. Like if I do this one thing and then the next, and before you know it, like my entire life has to be reimagined in order for me to feel like any sense of accomplishment or pride or self-worth. So let that be a warning. I know in regard to the consumption piece that I knew that would relate to you. I don't know if you want to share your mantra for the year about consumption.
Oh, yeah. My mantra for the year is create more, consume less. Create
right.
more, consume less.
Create more,
And that's something that came out of,
less.
sorry, I'm going to take a tangent.
Yeah, do.
Long way to grandma's house. Here we go. It came out of this year and end of 2018, over a month-long creativity challenge where I and anybody who wanted to join me online,
That's right.
we set out to just do something creative every day. And by just setting that little challenge, but also compassionately, so we weren't just like, "Whatcha, you must." Like it was just sort of like, it could be that you buttered your bread differently, like it just some act of applied imagination every day. And it really reordered and reprioritized a lot of stuff for me in a really surprising way. And I had a realization that I think sometimes when I buy stuff, I don't even think compulsively because I live within my means.
Thoughtfully,
Yeah,
of course,
but I'll still be like, I'll still buy stuff when I'm like, I don't know that I really have the money to be doing that. But I'm not. It's not extreme. But I realized that when I was making something every day, I was like, oh, that consumption is a counterfeit I'm trying to counterfeit the feeling that I get when I actually create something.
Am creative. That's right.
I am trying, like, as easily and lazily as possible to counterfeit whatever that wonderful thing is. That I think it's like I feel like it's like a, what's the word? Like endorphins or something that move through you when you're in creative flow.
That's right.
And I'm like, I think that I'm trying to replace it with the dopamine that I get when I push purchase.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. And we probably could have talked for an hour just about like the consumerism side of this, of this Diderot effect, because there are so many reasons psychologically why people do it and consume more than they need or things they don't want, or like there's a whole lot of theories about that. But I think it is interesting as it relates to creativity to like, is it a distraction? Is it something that mirrors that feeling that you're like, oh, I feel like I did something today?
Is it procrastination that's covering up fear of the vulnerability of making something? Yeah,
that's right. And so my spark, this just sparked a reminder for me to just make the thing and don't get caught up in like what's next or what else needs being done. And if I just make a list first, if I just do these 10 things first, then I can do the thing. No, just fucking do it.
So that's I was going to ask you, and I thought she's going to get there. She's going to get me there. I just want to say it again because I want to iron it in and try to remember it for myself. So oh God, sometimes when I'm learning something like this moment right now, it gets so slippery for me. It's so slippery that it's just like smoke and it just like,
you got it.
I can't get my hands around it. But what you're saying is when we as creative people have a creative impulse to polish a script or tweak a script, for instance, sometimes a thing can occur, a distraction or this blossoming compulsion to, well, if I'm going to do that, then I should polish all these other scripts. And if I'm in there already, if I'm in the documents, then I might as well do that like master Bible of, you know what, if I'm going to do that, I need to take all I'll do it on that wall in my office, but that means I've got to move all the art to the other side of the room. You know what, I'm going to clean the office. Like that sort of, when that sort of thing happens, just to stop, like sort of let your conscious mind insert itself and say, or how about you just polish that script, that initial creative impulse that you had. How about you tend to that?
Just wear the scarlet robe and don't imagine transforming your life around it. Just wear the robe in the rest of the apartment.
So can you keep your bedspread with your new in your fancy chandelier master bedroom?
It all. Well, I might. Yeah, honestly, I might change a couple things. Yeah. But no, we're not re-envisioning the entire bedroom around the chandeliers because it's not necessary. And it's just a distraction.
Is there any part of this I always think one of the things I love about you, Laura Camion, and I feel like listeners will learn this if they hang in this podcast with us. And P.S. if we keep making this podcast,
we will.
I don't know. Oh, we will see.
We will.
I like your commitment to,
we will.
I like your commitment to goals. I like you often see the positive side of things.
Aww.
And there's a positive side to this, which is, maybe you do receive the plush scarlet robe, or maybe you do receive the watch, and maybe you strive to make a better life, or maybe you like clean up your act in some way, or like,
you might, but you also might like essentially
just get
as it
knocked
relates
off
to
course.
Identity. No, I think as it relates to identity, both things can be true. You can be a woman who wears that watch, and you can have a shabby old sweater in your closet with moth holes in it that you wear around happily and joyfully.
High-low.
These two things don't
Highbrow,
have
lowbrow.
to. Yeah. One doesn't have to kick the other out. I can finish a script, polish it, and send it off to someone to read before I
clean your entire office. Before you Marie Kondo your entire house.
That's right. I don't have to. You don't have to do all of that. All things can exist. I can be a great writer and send my scripts out and have a completely disorganized pile of other scripts and thoughts and, All that is okay. All of it can be true. The problem in terms of this Diderot effect, it comes in when you think, oh, everything has to be transformed before I can take an action. Wow. Not so. We are here to just do it.
So the laundry can be undone. The house there can be dishes in the sink.
That's
and
right.
You can still, if you have a creative impulse
you can put on your scarlet robe. You can put on your fancy watch.
And then you can paint.
Get out your watercolors and just do it.
And the dishes will still be there.
The dishes will be there.
That is awesome. And say the name of it again.
The Diderot effect.
The Diderot effect.
Although I'm sure I might be saying
Diderot effect.
Diderot.
Well done.
Thanks.
That's news you can use.
That's news you can use right here.
Camion.
Blackwell.
Baby Cams, that was our
very first
episode of the Spark File. And we hope that this put a bunch of sparks in your file.
That's right.
Hey, listen to me. Listen to the sound of my voice. If there's a spark you'd like for us to explore, or there's a spark you'd like to share, won't you please email us at thesparkfile@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes. Please.
As the children say, subscribe, rate, and review.
Listen, if something about this, if anything tickled your fancy and gets your creative juices flowing, it is your turn now to take a spark and fan it into a sweet little flame.
You got to write it. You got to recite it. You got to fricassee it. You got to go on and be it.
Woo! Just take it and make it.
Bye.
Woo!
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.